This podcast is brought to you by Velena.
Welcome back to the AI Analysis Podcast. This week we're getting musical again with Dr. Peter Zisa's podcast Classica Musica, featuring guitarist and composer Hiroya Tsukamoto.
That's right. We're looking at some, I think, really valuable advice from Classica Musica for parents, thinking about introducing their kids to the guitar.
Right.
And we'll also trace the musical journey and sort of glean some wisdom from Hiroya Tsukamoto's experiences he shared in that interview.
Yeah, our goal today is really to pull out the most helpful, the most interesting bits from these sources for you. Maybe you're guiding a young musician or perhaps working on your own music.
Or just curious.
Or just curious about how it all works, yeah. How music is learned and created.
And these sources, they pair up nicely, don't they? You've got the practical tips for starting young players, and then this really inspiring story of Hiroya Tsukamoto, coming from Kyoto to the world stage. It's a great mix of guidance and, well, personal experience.
Okay, so let's get into that Classica Musica advice first. Starting kids on guitar. A big point they made right away was about the teacher.
Absolutely crucial. The podcast really hammers home that you need an experienced teacher, someone who knows how to build skills, definitely, but keeps it enjoyable and achievable for the child.
Right, not overwhelming them. And they talked about guitar size, which is obviously different for different ages.
Yeah, exactly. For teenagers, they can usually handle a standard size. Then it's nylon strings for classical technique, maybe steel strings if they're leaning towards rock or folk.
Makes sense.
But for the younger students, they really recommend those smaller 34-size guitars, almost always nylon strings.
Why nylon specifically?
Well, partly the sound, but mostly because the nylon strings are easier on the fingers. In the 74 size, it just fits smaller hands better. The frets are closer together. The neck isn't as wide.
Okay. So it physically makes it easier to actually press the strings down and reach the notes. Removes those early frustrations.
Precisely. It's about minimizing those physical hurdles right at the start.
Now, they mentioned something I thought was really clever, especially for the really young ones. Even a 34 might be a bit big, right? Using a capo.
Yes, the capo trick. It's brilliant, actually. You clamp it on, say, maybe the 5th or 6th fret, and it effectively shortens the neck from the player's perspective. The distance between those frets becomes much smaller, much more manageable for tiny fingers.
And I guess it lowers the action a bit, too. Makes pressing down easier.
It can, yeah. It reduces the tension needed. It's like, temporarily shrinking the guitar. And the idea is, as the student grows or their hand strength improves,
You just move it down.
you gradually move it down, fret by fret, maybe over weeks or months until they're comfortable with the full-scale length. It's a really smart, gradual approach.
That avoids that initial, I can't even hold this thing feeling.
Exactly. It fosters that early success. And the podcast also, very wisely, I think, points out that perfect sound isn't the goal right away.
Right, it's going to be scratchy at first.
It is. And that initial phase can be frustrating. A good teacher gets that and focuses on patiently building the foundational skills, piece by piece.
Yeah, they talked about breaking it down, like focusing on pitch separately.
Developing that sense of pitch is so fundamental. They suggest simple things like singing really familiar songs. Yankee Doodle was the example.
Okay.
Just getting the child to try and match the pitch with their voice. Using recordings helps too, giving them a reference point.
And rhythm, too. Not trying to do chords and rhythm all at once.
No, definitely not. Introduce rhythm with simple exercises like tapping on muted strings or even just on the body of the guitar.
Oh, like percussion.
Yeah, using it percussively. Coordinate it with a foot tap. Make it a little game. Keep it short. Keep it fun. So they actually want to repeat it and internalize that beat.
It makes so much sense when you think about it. Holding the guitar, finding the frets, reading notes, and playing in time. Trying to do all that from day one is just...
It's completely overwhelming for a beginner. Yeah, that's why a teacher who can isolate these things, work on holding, then maybe just finger placement on one string, then rhythm is so valuable. Build it up slowly.
And they also stressed balancing the technical stuff, the exercises, with actual musical activities, even if they're super simple at first.
Yes, so important. Let them make music, however basic, early on. It provides that reward, that sense of accomplishment, rather than just feeling like they're doing, finger push-ups.
Keeps them engaged.
Definitely. Which leads to another point they made, being wary of any magical secret methods.
The shortcuts.
Yeah. Music learning, they emphasize, really comes down to, discipline, consistent practice, and just gradual development. There's no magic wand.
So, okay, let's just quickly recap that advice for parents.
Yeah.
Get the right size instrument, maybe use a capo for the very small kids. Find an experienced teacher who balances skills with fun and is flexible.
Crucial.
Parent involvement helps. And focus on basics like singing for pitch, rhythm games.
Even using the guitar just for cool percussive sounds or storytelling early on. It's about creating this nurturing space for them to grow musically.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Forsan Records is proud to introduce the newest album from Velena, including the singles Cut Me to the Quick, and Remedy. Velena, Save Me From Myself, available now wherever you get your music.
Welcome back. Now let's shift gears from those foundational ideas to the really inspiring story of guitarist and composer Hiroya Tsukamoto. He shared quite a bit in a YouTube interview.
Yeah, he's a Japanese artist, now based in Queens, New York. And his recent home concert was described in a way that really caught my attention.
Oh, yeah. What were it?
It said it created a leisurely time at some place beautiful and peaceful. Doesn't that just give you a feel for his music?
It really does, evocative. So he grew up near Kyoto,
Yeah.
right? But has been in the U.S. for a while now.
Yeah, a small town outside Kyoto, been in the U.S. for 22 years, but he goes back to Japan often. His wife is Japanese, so they maintain that connection.
What I found really interesting was how he actually started in music. It wasn't guitar first, was it?
No, not at all. Get this, when he was 13, his dad found a 5-string banjo at a thrift shop.
A banjo. Wow.
Banjo. And he started teaching himself, trying to play along with records. This was the late 80s, so, you know.
No YouTube tutorials, no software to slow it down.
Exactly. He said it was really challenging. You just had to listen over and over. Amazing ear training, I suppose.
Incredible dedication. And his first guitar wasn't exactly top of the line either, from what I gather.
No, apparently his mother found an acoustic steel string at some kind of bazaar when he was in middle school. He described it as a bad guitar. The action was super high.
Ouch. Strings way off the fretboard. Hard work to play.
Really tough. It just shows, you know, the passion was there even when the tools weren't perfect.
It wasn't until he was, 20 or 21 that he got formal lessons?
That's right. He found a jazz guitarist in Japan. And that teacher actually played a pretty big role in his next step.
How so?
Well, this teacher was the one who encouraged him to think about going to the U.S. to study music seriously.
And he actually did it.
Yeah.
Auditioned for Berklee College of Music.
Yeah.
But in Japan.
Yeah, apparently Berklee sends faculty out internationally to hold auditions. He auditioned in Kobe, got accepted, and then moved to Boston a year later. Quite a leap.
I'll say. From a small town near Kyoto to Boston, that must have been a huge adjustment.
He said it was, yeah. Very significant, surprising, fresh, probably a bit overwhelming too, I imagine.
But when he got to Berklee, he didn't initially focus on guitar performance, did he? He chose composition.
Right. He said even back in high school, he thought of himself more as a composer or songwriter, so he wanted to expand those skills.
Okay.
But it turned out that the composition program, especially arranging for big bands, was incredibly time-consuming. Left him almost no time to actually practice guitar.
So he switched majors back to performance. But that composition study wasn't wasted, it sounds like.
Not at all. He said it gave him a much better understanding of instrumentation, how different parts work together. He even started an 8-piece band in Boston, interoceanic, and wrote all the music for it, so he was still using those skills.
And then, maybe 12 years ago or so, another shift to performing solo. What prompted that?
He saw a folk singer at a festival, just one person engaging the whole audience with songs and stories. And he thought, wow, if I could do that, connect like that.
Just him and the guitar.
Yeah. But he admitted those first solo gigs were nerve-wracking after years of playing with bands. It's a different exposure level, you know?
Totally. Now, something that stands out in his solo work is his use of a loop pedal. It's not just for background loops, is it?
No, not at all. He uses it to build intricate layers, almost like orchestrating in real time.
Right.
He's trying to create the sounds he hears in his head, sounds a single guitar can't make alone. He called himself an orchestrator, which I thought was a great description. Very precise, not predictable looping.
Interesting. And his music itself, it pulls from different places, reflecting his background and collaborations.
Definitely. You can hear diverse influences. He talks about composing instrumental music as taking the audience on a journey, creating an environment with sound. He knows instrumental music can sometimes feel, I don't know, a bit abstract or intimidating.
Right, without lyrics to guide you.
Exactly. So his goal is to make it really invigorating, really engaging.
He also gave some practical advice for performers, didn't he?
Yeah.
About structuring a set.
He did, yeah. Stuff like carefully choosing the songs, timing them out, even noting down the tempo and key beforehand, and practicing the spoken bits between songs, how long they are, what you say.
Varying the introductions, he said, to
Yeah.
keep people engaged. It's not just about playing notes.
No, it's the whole package.
Mhm.
Crafting the entire experience. He even uses vocalization sometimes, apparently. Not words, but just vocal tones and dynamics within the music.
Like another instrument almost.
Kind of, yeah. Adding dialogue or atmosphere. It all points to really knowing your audience, planning well, but also being ready to adapt based on their reaction.
That flexibility again. The mark of a real pro.
He also mentioned loving the travel aspect of being a musician, said he loved geography in school, and finds every U.S. state like a different country.
Oh, cool. And that feeds his songwriting.
Apparently so, yeah. New experiences, new influences. And speaking of new, he has a new album out.
Oh, yeah. What's the story with that one?
It sounds like a real shift. Recorded in a studio deep in the woods in Alabama. And it's just him and one acoustic guitar, no overdubs, no layers. He called it one time only.
Wow. Very raw, very immediate sounding.
Exactly. Should be fascinating to hear.
So when you think about both these sources, the practical advice on teaching kids, this journey of Hiroya Tsukamoto, what kind of stands out for you?
You know, it's maybe the reminder that learning music or even mastering it is always a process. It's built on small steps, small victories, whether you're 5 or 55. And Hiroya's story, it just shows how powerful a single instrument can be when there's real creativity and intention behind it, how it can bridge cultures and, transport you somewhere else entirely.
Absolutely. His journey really speaks to that power of curiosity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And finding the right mentors at the right time, but also just constantly evolving as an artist.
Yeah, from teaching himself banjo, from records to doing these complex loop orchestrations. It's a fantastic example for anyone really pursuing something they're passionate about.
We definitely recommend checking out Dr. Peter Zisa's podcast, Classica Musica, for more on music education.
Lots of good stuff there. And absolutely seek out Hiroya Tsukamoto's music, especially that new solo acoustic album Experience, that journey we talked about. We'll put links in the show notes, of course.
For sure. So as a final thought for you listening, how do these ideas resonate with your own life? Maybe you learned an instrument, maybe you're a parent, maybe you just love music. What new questions pop up for you after hearing all this? Because that's often where the really interesting thinking starts, isn't it?